Miss Helen Jones.
Yes.
How
Yeah!
did you first start reading comics, and what were the events that brought you to Comic Book Jones?
Can I just say that you're one of my favorite people in the world? Thank you.
Yikes.
I first started reading comics because I was always a fan of the old Batman animated series and the Burt Ward and Adam West Batman. And I know that the Warner Brothers store, back when there was such a thing, used to carry Batman, Superman, all that crap because they own DC. Sacco tried to come in with the mic. So I was with my dad, as young children tend to be, in the mall, and I said, well, if Warner Brothers has all this stuff, where can I get stuff for X-Men and Spider-Man? And I discovered my first comic book shop.
And that was?
And that was Comic Attitudes in East Staten Island.
Oh, okay. I remember Comic Attitudes, yeah. They were like down in like the corner.
Yeah, like all the way hidden where the nerds and the...
By the way, we're mentioning Staten Island a few times, so drink.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I remember that Warner Brothers store too. It had like this little Marvel
the
Martian
spaceship.
kind of.
We actually have it in the store. That the Superman on top of the bookshelf is from Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Evan gave it to us, and then the lithos.
Yeah,
Yes.
the lithos are from Evan too.
I actually have a couple of Batman
Like cells.
animation cells.
I missed that store. I liked it.
It was such a cool store. Not as cool as
They-
comic book.
They didn't let me sit in the
Damn right.
Oh, yeah!
To click on the applause because everybody knows it's true. Yeah, so that's how I started reading comic books.
Do you remember like the first comic you
The
purchased?
first comic I ever purchased was Batman and Robin Adventures, issue 16. It was a fisheye lens.
No, with the
style
issue
layout.
number, I
It was
like that.
Catwoman falling towards the viewer and Batman and Robin going out.
Do you still have
I
said
do
comic?
still
You
have
do?
that comic.
Is it all like beat up and
It is tattered beyond repair.
that's awesome.
As it should
As it
be.
should be. Oh, you owe me cook.
So that is my answer to that question.
So now, like, as far as continuing, I mean, was there a lull in between you getting that, or was it like, Daddy, take me to the comic book store every fucking week now?
Yes, it was. I used to. I know I was working somewhere because I had disposable income, and I would literally blow every cent of money that I earned on comic books.
Isn't it great getting your first job to buy comics?
It is.
Yeah.
That was pretty much like food was covered, clothes good. Didn't need that. I just would buy comics.
I get a $100 paycheck.
Yeah,
I have $100 in comics.
My allowance is all on comics and G.I. Joe action figures and accessories. I used to love the fucking weapons packs.
Yeah, and before this wonderful establishment opened, when I was working and going to college in the city, there was this place that I believe you know, Cosmic Comics, that was on 23rd and Madison. And they had this thing where like every certain amount of money, like you guys have, you get reward points. So I just used all my reward money towards busts and statues, so I have like shit tons of statues.
Do you really? See, I didn't know that about you.
No, unfortunately, they're all packed because I don't have
What are some of them? What?
I think the first one I got was Bullseye.
Really?
Yeah.
Laura Minato purchasing a Bullseye
Nice.
Buster
I got
statue.
Bullseye, Mr. Sinister,
Nice.
Cyclops, because he's one of my favorites. Even though I'm a
So then
geek
you
and I'm
jumped.
bored.
You jumped from DC introducing you to the comic book world to becoming more of a Marvel fan then.
In terms of collectibles, yes.
Okay. Oh, but not comics.
Comics, no, I was always...
You just thought they looked better in 3D?
Yes.
Marvel characters? Okay.
Well, I didn't, particularly at the shop that I was buying my busts and stuff, they didn't really have any great DC ones, or characters that I like.
Yeah.
Which I'll have to say that probably, even though Batman and Robin are two of my favorite characters, Marvel has the wider breadth of characters that I like.
And obviously, a lot of the statues you bought were bad guys, it sounds like.
Yes, I was even...
And that's why you married Tim Grant, obviously.
I was always a fan of the villains. In fact, when Tim and I first started going out...
When he rescued you from the train tracks?
When he rescued me, yes.
His-
From the train tracks. With his handlebar mustache.
Yes.
And his tuxedo with the tails.
Well, actually,
He sounds like a villain at this moment.
If he's a bad guy, then he tied you there and then changed his mind.
Yeah, then he's like, oh,
I'm going to buy her a steak.
Well, he's not the happy-go-lucky type of guy that other people go for.
So no like Oliver Twist, like flip
Oh
jump
my god,
kicks.
absolutely not. But when I was a kid, my
I
favorite
know nothing
characters...
about the twist.
My favorite characters were Grumpy from the Care Bears and Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
And then I married him.
Then Tiger.
Yes.
Similar. Tiger's very similar to you.
Tiger's been around for many moons. Tiger looks like he's in his late 20s, but he's actually several moons.
Also known as the wolf,
Yes, the wolf, that's right.
who
Yeah.
howls at the many moons.
Yeah.
And have you always wanted to go into drawing?
Yes, actually, when I was a kid,
Lumana,
Lumana taught me.
regular
The
at
great-
Shop
the
and
great
comic
Lu-
creator,
Yeah.
who actually agreed to come on the podcast. I don't know what night yet, though, but
In fact, I used to call him Lou Sensei back when he taught me. He was like my mentor, and I called him Lou Sensei, which I still call him. Yeah, right. And he was great. My sister and I have a twin sister, and we both draw, and we were both like the youngest people in the class. But it was good times.
you have an interesting family connection through your sister, too, Mr. Chris Hastings.
That's correct. My brother-in-law,
Creator
is
of Dr.
Chris
McNinja.
Hastings, creator of
Yeah.
Dr. McNinja. He works from Deadpool,
Wrote the
Yeah,
Fear
well,
Itself
I know.
Deadpool miniseries.
and
Mhm.
he's got some. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but I will say that Marvel has hired him again for a very exciting project.
Well, I saw his name connected to some Marvel stuff.
Yes, well, he's aside from Deadpool, there's
Yeah.
a new project that's pretty cool.
Every
And he
time
had
I
his omnibus come out, too.
Yes.
Yeah, the
which is
Dr.
pretty
McNinja
fucking
omnibus is
big,
pretty
man.
awesome.
That's like a big thumbs up, you know?
And my sister did, well, not the omnibus, but she also did the covers for
the trades,
for
the regular soft
Yeah.
covers.
My sister is a fucking amazing artist.
Yep.
Your sister's name?
My sister's name is Methuselah. And that's
That's
really common.
awesome.
Carly?
Carly, she calls me-
Hastings Menard?
No.
and she
Carly
hyphenated?
Menard, she did not take the Hastings.
She didn't?
She did not.
Fool.
However, their dog, which is about a 2-pound Pomeranian, his name is, are you ready?
I didn't buy shoes.
Yeah.
Commissioner James Gordon Hastings.
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
really?
That's their dog's name. I actually had the pleasure of dog sitting him for 8. Yes!
I have the dog's
Yeah.
Facebook page.
Okay, well, one of our audience members is friends with my nephew, my hairy little nephew.
There you go.
And yeah, they're all great people, so go out and buy my brother-in-law's books.
Yeah, there you go.
We have an omnibus on the shelf.
Yes, buy it.
Now, as far as your career,
Yes.
first professional work you did?
Jesus Hates Zombies with Stephen Lindsay.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, Steve's good guy.
Good people.
Yeah, sure. and then we moved on to create our own project with Steven,
Yes.
featuring my dog,
Yes.
Jack
Detective
Valentine
Jack
Jones.
Valentine Jones,
Who also had a spin-off.
who's no longer my dog through divorce. I've lost him.
It's a good thing that the spin-off didn't take off though,
Yeah,
because I would have kind of felt like a
Buddy
shit.
Cops.
Yeah,
which
which
was
actually there's
really
another
cool.
book called Buddy Cops.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. There's like
There's a
seven.
one-shot.
Look over there. There's like 17 Superman books. Sacco's funny.
So yeah,
Damn right.
the Slightly Askew Adventures of Inspector Ham and Eggs.
Now you've worked on Perhaps Nots as well. Which, now, how did you hook up with Tom DeZago?
Todd and Craig are both fantastic people, and I was actually at New York Comic Con.
By the way, when you were here signing with Todd, he's definitely
Isn't he
one
one
of
of
my
the greatest
favorite
people ever?
fucking people.
He's awesome.
When we went out for dinner, I had such a great time with him. Tiger just smirked his lips. I don't know.
I was super excited to meet him.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Your face will move.
I got him to sign 2 of my favorite comics, so that was cool.
Yeah, was the Young Justice?
The JLA World Without Grown-Ups.
Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he's technically the creator of Young Justice. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very Young Justice. Actually, it's funny today, just because you mentioned Young Justice. Somebody else, again, for like the 3rd time in like the past 7 months, has asked me if we could get the Young Justice 3-part statue.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
And it's super expensive and impossible to get. So stop asking us. But all right. So first thing you did was a pinup in Perhaps Nuts, the Halloween special, right?
Actually, the first thing I ever did, I was at New York Comic Con, and I was sitting in the podcast arena because I couldn't afford a table. I still can't afford a table.
Oh. Well, maybe we'll take a collection and get you that this year. Come on, man. Come on, Steve. How much will you kick in?
Oh, then I'm poor.
He's gonna kick in menopause. 'Cause that's what I heard.
Steve can't afford his annuals.
But go ahead, Lauren.
Hey.
No problem.
Gotta cook you for that.
So I was actually sitting with there's another podcast. It was with Chuck Moore and this guy Russ Burlingham, who was helping him out, who was friends with Todd. And he said, hey, because I was just sitting there doing nothing. He said, would you like to draw, a pinup for either, I think it was either Booster Gold or the Perhapanobs. And I hadn't seen the Perhapanobs before, but when I flipped through it, the character Choopy, who's a chupacabra, looked awesome.
I love Choopy.
And I love drawing monsters and critters and creatures. It's my favorite thing.
That's why you like to draw me and Tiger so much.
That's why I love drawing Sakura and Tiger. And so, yes, question.
How do you feel about hands and eyes?
How do you feel about hands and eyes?
There you go. So what's
Drawing them or,
yeah, drawing.
or just in general?
City audience member
In general,
Steve
they're very-
Garcia just asked if how do you feel about drawing hands and
Oh,
eyes?
damn, that's racist.
Hey, I'm Puerto Rican. Take it easy.
I actually
I
practiced
believe
hands
it.
quite a bit. In fact,
It's funny now.
well, is it Graham Nolan was? You remember the old DC Marvel crossover back in the day, where I think it was Graham Nolan and Dan Jurgens did most of the artwork.
Yeah.
DC versus Marvel in the mid-90s?
Yeah, that's not a question for Ed. I
Okay.
don't pay attention.
Well, Graham Nolan draws like the best fucking hands ever. He's just like such cool hands. So I actually did study his work quite a bit, and then I did hand studies.
Well, that makes sense. You look at the best and you fucking study what they do.
So they're a pain in the ass, but they're something that I worked very hard to get good at. So.
I think you do great with
Well,
hands.
thank you.
Yeah.
How about the eyes?
Actually, I would really like you to draw us barefoot.
I hate drawing feet.
Me and Tiger barefoot.
I'm like my
Skipping through a field. I think that should be the next CBJ t-shirt. What do you think, folks? Come on, me and Tiger. Skipping through a field.
Apparel.
With Waffle's face in the sun.
I'm always the happy son.
The baby face chasing after us as a fucking, small town cop.
Small town, like a Bobby cop.
Yeah.
To answer the second part of your question, eyes I have fun with because you can pretty much draw them any number of ways, and as long as they're in the right place, they usually
What about tiger's eyes? Bet you could do 1,000 things with those.
all the time.
Do you find Asian eyes hard to draw?
I don't.
As Lauren says, over
Tread
with an
very
Asian man.
carefully with that question.
Asia.
That's the eye going in.
We poke fun at every race on this podcast.
We're, like
Just so you know,
we're the Don Rickles.
If you didn't know who I was talking to, it's Doug Ling. Okay.
Not to be confused with duckling.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
No,
Dumpling or dumpling?
That's it.
I like
I'm going to call Doug the Duck from now
I like dumpling.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love dumplings.
Yeah, dumplings are delicious.
They're great.
Have you ever drawn a dumpling?
I have.
Yeah? Yeah, I've drawn a dumpling. I've practiced dumplings. I've done dim sum.
Did you eat a lot of dumplings that day to
It
practice
was a
drawing?
fantastic Chinese food restaurant by my college, and so we had quite a few.
Why's it got to be a Chinese food
Because
restaurant?
it was. With the option of French fries and frankfurters for those who did not like to partake.
Lauren, do you still do the pin-ups pretty much, or like the headshots of the musicians? 'Cause I know you were doing
Yes, the liner notes.
Can I,
Yeah,
wait,
you
can I
were
just interject? I'm sorry for a second. Like, was that true?
What?
That they had hot dogs?
Yes.
Like,
Dude,
you're walking into a place called, like, Clinky Clanky Robot Shoe, Lucky Duck. They're not fucking serving fucking hot dogs and french fries.
French fries is common, but hot dogs I've never seen.
It's probably for their Asian friends who want to live on the edge.
Hot dogs, chicken wings.
Chicken wing and garlic sauce.
It's the Asian over my shoulder
No, not
laughing.
even buffalo chicken.
No, I know, no.
Yes, it
The
is.
chicken wings and garlic sauce.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
always
yeah.
awesome.
Don't give him the
You've never seen hot
satisfaction.
dogs at a Chinese restaurant?
No, I haven't.
Probably the best
You're not
hot
going
dogs
to the right
ever.
places.
No, they're too long and cumbersome for me to eat with chopsticks.
Step of a hot dog,
Yeah.
both ends.
It's like a deconstructed dumpling.
Fun facts: there are actual Chinese food restaurants on Staten Island named Hip Wo,
Uh-huh.
and the one I go to, which is on Bay Street, is Cum Fung.
Oh, Kung
Yes.
Fung. I love that.
Yeah.
I refuse to go in there because it makes me think of waffle.
I used to do that as a kid.
But yeah, amazing Chinese food.
They used to know me.
My favorite Chinese food place is Tax. Mr. Tack.
Where's Tack? Wait, I've eaten that. Where's that?
It's on Holden Boulevard and Banana Road.
Yeah.
I've definitely eaten that.
Best
That's
times.
Soccer.
So, what were the events that brought you to CBJ?
Well, Ed, aka TBD,
Thunder Pussy.
I also want to say,
And my personal favorite, Raymond Burr.
I also want to say, I know
Where were you on the night of January 13th?
Well, you can't use Thunder Pussy. That's my porn name.
By the way, just so everybody knows,
Pound puppy?
he didn't pay as much as Derek Pinto at DPinto87, but Ed did pay for a commercial, and he's got a line of nipple rouges coming out for men. So,
Oh, Tony the
whatever
Marino
TBD
psyched.
Can I get hoops?
Please don't curse.
It's to make your areola as large as you'd like.
Do we have a 10% off discount sale today?
Nipple size. Nipple size 2.
with only one pig.
Yeah, nipple size 2.
The slogan is, who says men's nipples have to be small? Yeah. I want imposing male nipples, Ed. Thank you for inventing
Will
that.
that be a new section on the shop on Translocal?
Actually, yes.
It'll be
We'll
behind
just
the counter.
TBD products. We should just
That
create
could
a
be
bunch of
listed under
fake
the
products.
short-
I was gonna say, I was surprised
sure.
there were no T-shirts on the shop.
No, not well, because we have 2 extra larges in stock. We've been sitting here for a while, and we haven't talked to Lauren about designing a new one. And
The Godfather's
the Founding Godfathers T-shirt. There's 2 extra larges left, and
Grab them now.
Yeah. Grab them now.
Grab
Get
them
them
now.
while supplies last.
At your local
Ted.
And get a free tin of TBD's Nipple Rouge. Any color for whites, blacks, Asians,
Reds.
Jews.
So Lauren, how did you first come to CBJ?
For those with veiny nipples. Those with collapsed nipple syndrome. Inverted nipple party. I don't know.
party.
Yeah, party.
That's how you sell the really unpopular color. You had party or like extravaganza in the name.
They're all purple.
Exactly. That's the one that like
What would
got
an
fucked up in
unpopular
processing.
areola rouge color be?
That's the only color I buy.
Lavender.
A lot of liquid blue.
It's liver disease yellow.
Black and blue.
Mustard.
Jaundice mustard.
For all those acne tits.
So Lauren,
Oh. Hi, Ed.
hi.
Hi.
How are you?
And our newest flavor, Whitehead. Want to gross out your boyfriend? Here's some fun. Put on some Whitehead, TBD Nipple Rouge. Get those tits a poppin'.
Simulates the colors and sights.
Coming soon, Blackhead. Get it? Blackhead.
I feel sad. I stole Tiger's mind. Are you okay?
Tiger's okay with that.
Tiger doesn't care if he has a mic or not.
So Ed, to answer your question, Tim and I were going to see a movie at Yonder Theater. I'm
What's the
pointing
question?
in the direction. How did I come?
Oh, yes, yes.
And we were driving back from the movie. I believe it was one of the Bourne trilogy, for those interested. And I see this wonderful lit up sign that says Comic Book Jones, and I said, well, that could only be one type of store. Please take me immediately. And since he's the
Well,
best
Tiger
husband in the
origi-
world, he did.
Did you miss
Tiger
the
originally
movie?
wanted to sell pantyhose for fish. I said I'm dead against it.
But keep the name Comic Book Jones,
Absolutely.
like a bait and switch.
Quite the red herring.
Trouser elves.
There's herons on the island.
There you go. There's an obscure moment.
Have you seen
Trouser
the
elves.
Trouser elves.
There's a nest at like Clove Lakes Park.
We can't hear you.
There's a trouser elves?
No, of herring.
Oh.
Not red herring, mind you. Which
Go on.
Which are false clues.
So you saw the place.
I saw the place.
Was there like a glow around it?
There was an aura, much like
Was it like when Mary was visited by
much like
Gabriel?
yes,
Yeah.
much like the gold leaf paintings of yore.
Yeah.
Of Jesus and his family.
I love your.
Isn't your
I have all the shit. It's hot in there. Whoa!
Yeah! America! I like getting a rise out of you.
So I entered the store, and lo and behold, there's Sacco, who I knew from his previous employment at another
At Jim
shop,
Hanley's,
at
yeah.
Jim Hanley's. And I said, well, what are you doing here? And he said, well, this is my shop. And I said, hey, that's swell. Would you like to buy my comic books? And he said, yes. And then I bought some comic books, I think. I'd like to think
Yeah,
I
you
bought
definitely
comic
did.
books.
I remember you had your Human Torch bag.
Ah, yes.
Cool.
Yeah, she had like a Human
Explain more,
Torch
man.
messenger bag.
It was a pretty swell bag, and then I was told that I had to carry an adult purse.
By who? By Jimmy Grand Prix?
No.
Oh.
He would never hinder my style like that. But no, I was told. Well, especially that it was.
Was it by Dan Didio?
It was
Oh, okay.
I'm not even sure that it was.
So the bag you would carry at working was going to alter your work at wherever you were working?
I don't even know what their problem with my bag was, but it,
No fun!
it upset me. I just made up a word there.
A vegetarian
No,
bag?
I said utilitarian.
Totalitarian.
Italian.
I am
Italian.
It's funny though, because I call you Tally sometimes. Tally.
That's true,
Tally.
palsy. And the first
Yeah.
time you signed something, hey palsy, I thought you wrote palsy, and I wasn't sure.
I signed for you.
It was your picture when you're on the.
Oh, my 8x10 from when I used to do it.
And you signed it. No, I'm sorry. It was my name tag for my first ever signing.
Ah.
And it said thanks palsy, and I thought it said thanks palsy.
Thanks, Palsy. I could probably wrote that because he was angry.
Palsy.
We get instant to human dance with tea.
So yeah, so I was. I think you guys were open for about a month, and I've been coming here ever since.
And then you landed a gig here, and
And then what was it?
we're that much better for it.
It was
'Cause
around your second anniversary, I believe, that I was hired on to do all your artwork and revamp the website.
yeah, without a doubt. Which thank you very much. I mean, it's just, it's hard. I mean, the truth of the matter is that, you know, a lot of people, you go into business and you look for like a look, something recognizable, and I think we've been really lucky that we have you, that, you know, the fact that you handle all the artwork, it's pretty recognizable, and it helps a lot with the branding, so
Well, thank you very much.
thanks a lot.
I am honored that I was selected, considering how many amazing artists you know.
No, well, most of them don't like me.
Well, no one.
One other question though about your history, career in art and whatnot. I know you do animation right now, but there was a time too where you were working on Venture Brothers. How did that come about?
I love how that was genuine though.
Yeah, it was very-
That kind of felt cool. I felt
You're a
I
celebrity.
felt like a superhero.
Elaborate.
Well, right out of college, which I went to the School of Visual Arts.
that was your first album, straight out of college.
Straight out of college. My sister and I, by the way, always said that if we had a band, our name would be The Cold Side of the Pillow.
Nice, I like
Which was
that.
later developed into The Flaming Bidardos,
Uh-huh.
which is what our last name sounds like if you have a cold. So, I'm sorry, what's the question?
Venture Brothers.
Okay, yeah, so I was going to school, and then I got an internship at what was then Noodle Soup, which then became World Leaders. And their biggest show, obviously, was Venture Brothers.
Uh-huh.
And I interned there for free for, I think, maybe 2 years. And then I took a test for this god-awful show. It was so bad, called Super Normal, and it only aired in the UK.
I remember that. I remember Super Normal.
So,
I remember
it was
the
a
name of
flash
that
cartoon.
show.
It was a flash cartoon.
Mhm.
Eric, he had underpants on the outside, like
Uh-huh.
actual underpants.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I worked on that. I was a storyboard revisionist on that. And then from there, I did commercials. You remember the old Net 10 commercials where it was like the League of Evil?
No.
No? There was these old
Does
cell phone
anybody?
commercials.
No, I don't.
It was the League of
Yeah.
Evil. And it was like they were, you know, it was basically the League of Doom, but it was League of
Not the League of Doom.
not the League of Doom. So when I did that, they were like, oh, you could draw stuff that's not super cartoony. And I said, yes. So they said, well, you know, we're looking for a backup person for Venture Brothers. Would you mind taking a test? So I said, okay. So, which was really like my dream job. That's really what I wanted to be doing. So I took the test. Everything that could possibly go wrong during the test went wrong. Like my computer was lagging, the tablet that I was using wasn't working, all that good stuff. But I got through it, handed it in. I guess about a couple of days later, I get called in from my would-be supervisor, this guy Steven DiStefano, who's an amazing artist also. And he said, called me in, and actually the producer, Rachel Simon at the time, said, we wanted you to come in if like somebody had to go on vacation or they were sick or whatever, we needed fill-in. but your results were actually so good that there's a guy we've been meaning to let go.
Oh, wow.
That we're now going to let go.
He's 47 years old, has a family of 12.
Well, it's,
Hasn't sharpened his pencil in 17 years.
Has one arm, he's the Jim Abbott of drawing. Gotta let him go.
he's the
We
elevator
want you to
man.
fire him for us.
Imagine.
He's too tough. No,
That's funny.
he was kind of done working on the show. He had other stuff he wanted to do, so his heart wasn't in it anymore. It wasn't any comments on his talent. He's an amazingly talented person. I won't mention his name just in case. I don't know if he knows the story. But so, long story short, I was hired. I worked on season 3. I had some pretty memorable scenes for fans of the show. I storyboarded the scene where Colonel Gentleman is naked in a diabetic coma, and his boy lover has to slap him into consciousness. I got to draw.
That's fantastic.
I do that.
Oh, let's hear some applause if you know it.
The Monarch fucking a robot scene.
Wow, Heather just had an orgasm, for Christ's sake.
Any Bowie scenes?
I didn't get to do any Bowie scenes. I did get to storyboard the Prodigy scene, the Firestorm.
That's awesome.
In fact, I watched the video ad nauseum before I storyboarded it, so I got to do like a little. I animated him doing a little shuffle and then
awesome.
the head
Can't wait to
tussle,
watch
and then he stuck out his tongue. So I got to do that. And there's another scene that where Tim, Tom, and Kevin are chasing Hank, Dean, Henchman 21 and 24 through the maze outside of, I think, Phantom Limb's house.
Yeah.
And they're like going fucking crazy. And they do the Pac-Man noise.
Yeah.
I got to do that scene. And then my other favorite scene, last one I'll mention, was when Sergeant Hatred is coming down from his like spaceship. And Dean says
That's such a great
Hank,
sentence.
Dean says to Hank, if you see a shiny man come out of there, don't be afraid, that's Jesus, and he grabs his face. that was actually all my improvisation.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
I basically, if you look at my old blog in the archives, there's
There's the panels.
panel to panel, I basically directed the animated the scene, and you can see where they're not supposed to. The animators are all in Korea, and they're supposed to just use the models, but they always kind of just take the easy route, and they basically trace over some of the storyboard panels.
Yeah.
So there's kind of my drawings in those episodes, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
That's awesome. You just mentioned your blog. What's your blog?
LaurenMonardo.blogspot.com.
There you go.
Yeah!
Lemonado.blogspot.com. Right now, Tough Tony is writing it on his girlfriend's breast.
He actually is.
Yeah.
It's pretty crude.
Are you
Yeah.
on Twitter?
I have a Twitter account, but I'm horrible with keeping up with that stuff, so I haven't posted.
So she doesn't want to mention it.
So you're going to spell it deep into 87.
I thought you were going to say you have a hard time tweeting. I was be like, it's 140 letters.
Maybe
I
say-
can't think
Go ahead.
that many words.
She thinks of 150 at all times.
I
142.
can never truncate my thoughts.
Fist pump.
I just have to say about Laura Monardo, she's been lauded here by some pretty well-known artists like Evan Dorkin. Evan Dorkin is a big fan of what Lauren does,
And that blows me away.
it's just a matter of fact that just like music. I mean, anybody who's a fan of music, there's a lot of for lack of a better term, just because you don't know who they are, underground artists, creators that you should be willing to give a chance to, who are lucky enough or who have struggled hard enough to get any of their projects onto a shelf, and somebody who, as you just heard, has had some pretty prestigious jobs, as Lauren has, that are still trying to do their best to break into this. And I remember Evan Dorkin saying to me one time, breaking into the comics industry is harder than breaking into the music industry. So, just keep in mind, when you, and this has nothing to do with sales, but when you come into the shop and you come to the counter and say something to us when we're ringing you up like, hey, it's a light week. Well, if it's a light week, then, ask us. Say, hey, is there an indie book that's out or a creator-owned book that's out that maybe I should be checking out or whatever, just to give a hand or, and we do have some of Lauren's work here, and if you're a fan of the banner of me and Tiger being held by King Kong, you know, saying that we were voted the #1 comic shop in New York City. And, you know, ask us about some of the stuff that she's done, because we always do our best to make sure that we have it in stock. So, yeah, just keep that shit in mind. And thanks so much, Lauren.
Thank you, Sasha.
Love you, Lauren. You know, keep up the good work.
Thank you. And I would just like to say that I hope it did not come off as bragging before. I get excited about talking about this stuff.
No,
because it's
stop.
fun.
Did she sound like she was bragging, guys?
Okay. I know that I've got a lot to learn yet.
No, you're not bragging at all. It's just, you know, you're just talking about your career and what you've done.
Well, in that case, I'm pretty terrific.
There you go. You absolutely are.
Damn right you are.
Thank you, audience member. I'm sorry, what's your name?
Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Actually, it's Steven.
I have a blank cover of Old X-Men drum. It's
Oh, yes, it was the first thing I do for you.
pretty awesome.
I think now
I'm no
it's
fool.
about that time for a soccer topic.
Well, yeah.